Hello, Max here, and today I am going to be watching What Dating an OF Girl is Like by Think Before You Sleep. This is apparently supposed to be a video that is taking into account the new order of protection that has occurred on Tectone and Pinkchy. I'm very curious about what is going to happen with this here. I've heard a little bit about it. I've heard Legal Mindset doing a few things about it, but I still am not entirely certain how all this is going on here. And all I know is that there's a big mess that's going on with this whole interaction between these creators and their pasts together. So I try not to judge beforehand or anything like that, but I don't like anybody who's being involved with everything so far from everything what I hear from both sides. So I'm going to take a look at this because I've been hearing some interesting things about this particular video. So let's go ahead and give us an hour of fun, shall we? If you enjoyed the video, please do a like and please give the original a watch. I'll leave a link to the original in the description. If you have anything else you'd like me to watch or anything to comment on, please do comment, and please do subscribe and help me build my community and follow along in the future. Let's go ahead and find out what this mess is all about.
Tectone went to court today, and he lost the court case against Pinkchy.
And we're starting off with some details from Mizkif, apparently.
Tectone, with his 5 lawyers, lost. She had 1, and she won. That's how bad it was. For the next 10 years, Tectone...
Okay, no matter how everybody is in this considering thing, I don't like Mizkif. Mizkif has been horrible in so many ways from what I have seen. If there's anybody who knows different, please let me know. But so far, everything I hear about Mizkif has just been... I don't trust Mizkif as far as I could throw him. And my arms are weak. Let's go ahead and
Tectone can't own guns and has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thanks, Mizkif. We can always trust you to report things accurately. In case you
Yeah, see? Right? So accurate.
haven't heard, Twitch streamer Tectone and an ex-girlfriend of his who goes by Pinkchy have been in a legal battle after Pinkchy publicly accused Tectone of sexually assaulting her.
So it's Pinkchy. Okay, I'll have to remember that. I'll probably forget it by the end of the video.
Recently, Pinkchy filed for a protective order, which is to prevent stalking and harassment, and Tectone lost a motion to get it dismissed. Now, before we get into all this, let me just say that I'm not even remotely neutral on whose side I'm on. I started out neutral. I started out with the mindset of, let's take a look at the facts of the case. Maybe there's some nuance here. Maybe both parties did something bad at certain points. Usually that's how relationships in particular work.
Pretty much how I've been taking this whole thing.
But my mind changed when I began researching, and I think after you guys watching see the details, you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, which is that this is a massive failure of the justice system, which is why this video is a defense of Tectone. It's about how, in my opinion, none of the assault allegations were true, and it's about how this whole situation was a coordinated effort from multiple streamers to ruin his career.
I mean, I have heard that a lot of people hate Tectone and would do pretty much see any way to get him off the face of the earth if possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of that's true, but I'm going to reserve judgments.
Being said, Tectone, or John, is a popular Twitch streamer who started out by playing gacha games.
All right, ads. Here we go again. Here we go. I cannot wait for the day I can be able to start 49.
I played Genshin Impact, so you don't have to. So it's Breath of the Wild, but worse.
Let me know in the comments. Should I ever pick up gacha games at all? Because I usually try to avoid them.
But with waifus. Also, be careful of shit-talking Paimon's English voice acting.
More recently, Tectone is known for calling
I did hear about this. I'm not going to say anything more about it if you have already.
out how entitled the least talented video game voice actors are, and for helping expose Hassan Piker as an animal abuser. And this is Pinkchy.
Hey, officer, you ever realize how hard it is to say rough 2 times in a row?
Rough?
Good boy.
Well, that was cringe.
Okay, that was pretty cringe.
Anyway, Pinkchy,
Gee, I wonder what sort of audience she seems to be catering towards.
who also goes by her middle name Ashley, is an OnlyFans creator who's achieved success after getting a very noticeable amount of plastic surgery, followed by a generous use of photo editing tools. I mean, this is an insane amount of catfishing. I'm not even looking at the same person when I compare a live stream to...
Yeah, I know there's some definite changes on the face.
to a photo of her. Which brings us to
Which, if you were to ask me, I don't know why. She seemed perfectly fine with the first image.
November 20th, 2024, where Pinkchy goes on an alternate account to make a post accusing someone of forcing her into oral sex, and everyone immediately assumed that she was talking about Tectone.
If you can believe it, Tectone actually is a piece of shit. His ex-girlfriend, Pinkchy, she's come out to speak about his sexual assault against her. How do you know that she's referring to Tectone? Because it's on LSF and they're not following each other anymore.
She's referring to this live stream fails post from an anonymous account announcing that Pinkchy was referring to Tectone.
I usually try to avoid Reddit like the plague. I've never really heard too much good from there. And I know who that was. That was Denims. I've been hearing a lot of crazy things about her too. And honestly, I don't know what it is about her, but whenever I hear her speak, there is just some sort of vitriol that goes from in the back of my head that it just, I don't know. It's kind of like how poison tree frogs have like a lot of color to them to ward off predators. I don't know. She has that kind of like voice to me.
I mean, there were also obvious context clues like saying they live together, and who posts something to a public forum if they believe that the audience isn't going to know who they're talking about. So let's be clear, everybody on the internet knew this was Tectone despite her not saying his name in the post. So obviously Tectone had to respond, and he did so at first by not specifically naming who he was talking about.
So if you're confused, you're going to stay confused, because this shit is not about content for me. Okay? I know the person who needs to hear this is going to hear this. And I mean this genuinely. I did everything for you. I helped you with everything. I fixed everything for you. I was there for you like nobody else was there for you in your whole life. Your words, not mine.
Now, he does sound pretty mad here, which is why people such as Denims interpreted this as a definite confirmation that he was an abuser.
Your words, not mine.
Oh my God.
I don't know where they're going with this, and I don't know why. Of course he'd be aggressive. You're being accused of assault. I think anybody would be pretty upset about it.
He even talks like an abuser. Holy shit.
Talks like an abuser. This is what I mean about them. Talks like an abuser? I'm pretty sure anybody who's been accused of abuse is gonna sound like this, innocent or guilty.
Glad
Thank you.
Tectone is
It's
such a
generous of you.
dumbass that he doesn't realize how bad this makes him look.
I don't know who that was, but that person needs to shut up.
Oh yeah, the problem is that he has an inflated ego and he's
Or was that a text-to-speak message? Even that way, that person, that was not called for.
stupid, which is like a horrible combination to have.
Well, that was the projection of the century. And though maybe that video out of context was a bad look for Tectone, trust me, as we go over the court transcript, not Mizkif's transcript that his idiot friend wrote, I mean the actual court transcripts. So when we go over the real transcript, you're going to understand why Tectone was a little angry there. In fact,
Once again, another reason why I don't listen to Mizkif very well, because he doesn't have the full deal, it sounds like. And, well, if they're using the actual transcripts, I'm going to appreciate that.
I think he was quite polite. That transcript is infuriating knowing that it was used to take someone's First and Second Amendment rights away for 10 years. Anyway, on November 22nd, 2024, 2 days after Pinkchy makes her allegations, Tectone confirms on Twitter that Pinkchy was talking about him. He says that she has 2 weeks to apologize and admit that her allegations were false, or he will sue her for what I imagine was defamation, citing that he will also pursue legal action against those who knowingly repeat her lies with reckless disregard for the truth.
As far as how that goes, I've not heard of him suing anybody.
Tectone goes on to say that he's willing to work with law enforcement and is ready to prove his innocence. And then Keemstar comments with some words of wisdom at the end. Which brings us to Travis County in Texas on January 23rd of 2026, and a hearing for a protective order filed by Linda Ashley Lamar, that's Pinkchy, against John Robertson, that's Tectone.
Tectone with his 5 lawyers.
Tectone and his 1 lawyer, that's 1 lawyer, Mizkif.
I don't know where Mizkif got this whole 5-lawyer thing. Like, that's expensive as heck. If he's having 5 lawyers, this guy's gotta be loaded. I'm surprised more people haven't been trying to sneak into his friendship circle just so he can get some of this money. If that was the level of money he supposedly has, you know how people can be.
I don't know why you would lie about something that was so easy to disprove.
I'm smart. I'm not going live and saying
Okay. Somebody who is actually smart does not call themselves smart. You let other people call you smart. You never call yourself smart.
things that are stupid. I'm not going live and being not strategic with my words and my actions. I'm being smart.
Right. Mizkif sent a friend of his to go to court and take notes on the day of the hearing. Seems like the information wasn't very accurate. So Tectone's 1 lawyer is Joffrey Purrier, a guy with an enviable jawline, and Pinkchy's lawyer is Michelle Locke, an aspiring self-help influencer.
Life is a journey. Life has ups and downs.
Very insightful words of wisdom. Last, the case is being heard by Judge Dimple Malhotra. Just for clarification, this is a civil case. Conveniently, a lot of these types of allegations seem to be tried in civil courts, probably because the burden of proof there is much lower than in criminal court.
And if you take it into, oh my god, another ad!
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app.
But yeah, when it comes to the civil cases, nobody's going to jail when somebody loses one of those.
That the judge agreed with that. Now, the judge was not empowered to put him in prison directly because that was not a criminal case. Had it been a criminal case and had he been given a bench trial, he would have gone to prison as a rapist right then.
God, these idiots are annoying. For those of you who don't know, Mike from PA is the guy who pretended to be a licensed attorney to run for the Pennsylvania legislature, but the state Supreme Court kicked him off the...
I've heard of this guy too. I've also seen his little cringe video, so I'm not the biggest fan of this fella either. He's straight. He says some very, very dangerous things and threatening things. I don't like people who are like that. When you are like that kind of stuff, I am out.
Ballot after they found him misrepresenting himself. Now he's pretending to be an authority on the law on Twitch. Spoilers, most of the law influencers get shit wrong all the time, and they aren't really that trustworthy. Anyway, in reality, there was a police investigation, but it didn't go anywhere, let alone prosecute.
Never instantly trust anybody making videos, because videos are for content, and contents are making money, so there's going to be wrong stuff in them. So just keep that in mind for anything, even this video.
So Pinkchy claimed that she would put a pause on pressing criminal charges because she was afraid of Tectone retaliating, which I don't believe because he publicly said he would cooperate with the police. And also, if Pinkchy was actually afraid, she wouldn't have continued to attack Tectone legally. Personally, I think the only reason that a protective order was filed is because she wants to attack him, and there's no way in hell that she would have won a criminal case. Now, just so it's less confusing, and because there's no video of this hearing, as we go over the transcript, I'll put pictures on...
I do find it interesting that he got I don't know if it was a request specifically by her to get the protective order instead of just your typical restraining order. If that was her request for it, and then I would feel that it is more of an attack, because if that was really the case, then I would say you would start with the restraining order. If they kept getting worse, you'd go upgrade things, wouldn't you? At least that's how I would think. Hopefully I never have to be in the position where that becomes a thing. But that's where I would have imagined you would start from.
On the side of who is talking. That being...
I mean, if a protective order is you are fearing for your life utterly.
Said, Pinkchy's lawyer starts her opening statement by blaming Pinkchy's lack of evidence to corroborate her story on the fact that she's autistic. Pinkchy's primary argument here is that...
I hate when they use autism as an excuse for everything. There's some people who really do. And there's some people who have a lot of autistic things who... Let's see, what's we're looking for here. I mean, they'll do some dumb stuff, but they don't blame their autism for it. Let's see, what else is there? I know there's something else more I want to say, but... And there's plenty of people who have no autism who will do the most horrible stuff. So I think autism is not something worth using as an excuse.
That, as a person who was nearly 30 at the time, she didn't realize that she was being abused until someone else told her, because she's very slightly autistic. What, did they take that argument from TikTok? So anyway, you know, if there's like a mountain of evidence showing that this was all consensual, well, just ignore that because Pinkchy changed her mind after the breakup and after Tectone got into a relationship with a different woman. What a convenient set of circumstances. That being said, let's go to the first allegation of assault. Pinkchy said that she had recently gotten breast implants, so this is a plastic surgery related allegation. Now, I'm going to redact some of this information to make it YouTube safe, but the page numbers are all there so you can just look it up for yourself. Basically, the allegation was that Pinkchy could not perform because of her recent surgery, so Tectone found other non-consensual means, allegedly.
Much love to this queen. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that and then probably get traumatized altogether one more time in the court process, but at least now you have a moment of respite.
To further elaborate on the context here, Pinkchy testifies that she had been living with Tectone in exchange for sexual favors. Personally, I don't believe this version of the story at all. After reading through the transcript, it is...
Yeah, when it gets like this, you better have evidence of it in some way, you know? Like, when there are cases of he said, she said, it's not a very fair argument because the truth will always be somewhere in the middle, and they air out a lot of dirty laundry that can be construed in any which way. So I'm a little concerned on how truthful or how much of a lie anything could be in this on both sides. Because all I have to do is say the worst horrible things about each other, and then right back, they're going to say, no, and no one's going to know the truth without evidence. That's what I hate about these things.
Very clear to me that they were living together because they were in a relationship. For reference, Pinkchy and Tectone's relationship started in December of 2022, and they broke up around June or July of 2024. About a month later, in July or August, Tectone meets his now fiancée, Sophia, and a few months later, in November, Pinkchy accuses Tectone of sexual assault. Which brings us to the second allegation. Again, pictures are...
Also, if this is all true against Tectone, then I would imagine people are going to want his current girlfriend, like keep an eye on their current girlfriend to see if she ever does or says anything that goes along with their story, because that would be like the nail in the coffin, right? You basically would have a third person that's talking about things like him. But with the ones that are currently going on, I mean, if they're exes, then they're going to say anything. And it's very hard and difficult to know where things are going to go. So I'm just very concerned how things are going to go.
Here to indicate who is in the conversation. If you see a Q, though, that means a lawyer is talking. And if you see an A, that's going to be either Tectone or Pinkchy talking. Anyway, Pinkchy said that she had just gotten lip filler, and Tectone had forced her into oral sex, which had ruined the lip filler. Geez, another plastic surgery-related incident? Do all of her allegations have some sort of plastic surgery involved? Now, is there any corroborating evidence that this happened? Not really. There may have been a doctor's appointment where she had to get the lip filler fixed. However, that doesn't prove anything because she could have just as easily screwed up the filler through regular consensual activity or something else entirely. But these are pretty much the allegations of assault. Now, when I say that Pinkchy had
I'm also going and trying to read some of the stuff here, but it's the redactions. I'm not sure what they're redacting against, but yeah, it's definitely
evidence
not
of this
good
stuff
things to
occurring.
hear.
Understand that her own testimony counts as evidence from a legal standpoint. So allow me to clarify what I mean. I'm saying she had no additional evidence to verify the truth of her story. And let me point out just how ridiculous this is. Tectone is a guy who is constantly on camera.
There's like a good 8 to 10 people who have already said, he didn't do it. We know he didn't do it. We were there when they said it happened. That never happened. They say there's a third girl. They don't exist. They don't realize that the entirety of, a large portion of my house is fucking filmed on the inside. I have security cameras on the inside. That's how fucking paranoid I am.
Oh my god, what the heck are these ads? We literally just had another ad before. Blah, 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 blah.
This
Skip.
is a guy who streams for multiple hours a day, plus the couple streams that he did with Pinkchy. You're going to tell me that you have no footage, no audio recordings, and no text that make him look abusive or make him look like a stalker? You also have no testimony from other witnesses saying that Tectone was abusing you? This is despite the fact that there were two roommates living with them the entire time. So
also, another thing I want to say, if somebody ever does get you in one of this position, man or woman, abuser, fight hard, because you want, scratch them, fight them, resist them, do everything impossible to go against them, because you leave marks, those are irrefutable. Just saying.
Either Tectone is this master manipulator who can get away with all of this without a trace, which is a weird thing to argue because his opposition is constantly calling him stupid.
When he's literally I don't know how anyone fucking ever listened to this guy.
He's dumb as fuck. I honestly think he needs to be arrested just so he can experience what that is like, so he shuts the fuck up and goes away.
I genuinely...
That's some more dangerous talk about throwing out that kind of stuff there.
Don't
honestly.
understand how someone could be so fucking stupid to think that this is a good response.
So either he is this master manipulator who can fool anyone, or none of this shit happened, in my opinion. On that note, Pinkchy's lawyer has finished questioning her client.
Honestly, from what I have seen of Tectone, I don't think he's smart enough to be as manipulative of everything. Either that is part of his whole manipulative plan, or he is just an idiot and saying whatever tops off his head. He could be both. I'll never know, never truly know.
So let's go to cross-examination from Tectone's lawyer, Joffrey. Before we get into this, though, it requires...
Joffrey is a very unfortunate name.
Some backstory. For those of you who didn't know, Tectone was previously married for like 10 years to a woman whose name is Jessica. They divorced a while back. Now, to me, the details here are kind of murky because an NDA was signed, and I only really have the court transcript to piece together what was going on. But remember how I said that Tectone has cameras everywhere? Well, it turns out that his ex-wife still had remote access to the cameras after the divorce, and allegedly, she was using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pinkchy to blackmail them. And how this didn't land his ex-wife in jail is beyond me. Anyway, a lawsuit was filed, and a part of this lawsuit included Pinkchy suing Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave. Let me repeat this. Pinkchy sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone. Pinkchy said it was defamatory to call her an abuse victim. Not only that, but this lawsuit occurs 1 month after...
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go back here, because who did what the... Who did what?
Pinkchy's lawyer has finished questioning her client, so let's go to cross-examination from Tectone's lawyer, Joffrey. Before we get into this, though, it requires some backstory. For those of you who didn't know, Tectone was previously married for like 10 years to a woman whose name is Jessica. They divorced a while back. Now, to me, the details here are kind of murky because an NDA was signed, and I only really have the court transcript to piece together what was going on. But remember how I said that Tectone has cameras everywhere? Well, it turns out that his ex-wife still had remote access to the cameras after the divorce, and allegedly, she was using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pinkchy to blackmail them. And how this didn't land his ex-wife in jail is beyond me.
Okay, so it's the ex-wife who used the remote viewing to get the recordings and is blackmailing Tectone and Pinkchy.
Anyway, a lawsuit was filed, and a part of this lawsuit included Pinkchy suing Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave.
Oh, so Pinkchy is suing the ex-wife because the ex-wife is calling Pinkchy the sex slave, and Pinkchy is disagreeing that she is not a sex slave. So that means you don't think of yourself being used as a sex slave in a sense. Okay.
Let me repeat this. Pinkchy sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone. Pinkchy said it was defamatory to call her an abuse victim. Not only that, but this lawsuit occurs 1 month after her alleged incidents of abuse, and she says these claims about her from Tectone's ex-wife were disgusting lies. What a weird thing to say, right?
Not just lies, disgusting lies. Which means that she's flat out pretty much saying that it is all definitely not things that are happening. Okay.
So that's our first counter to Pinkchy's story, and just right there, throw the case out. You mean to tell me that someone called her an abuse victim and she spent money suing them to say, no, I'm not? The second part of this is that Pinkchy went...
Okay, yeah, that pretty much screams to me, like, why would you do this if you disagree with it? You should be on the other person's side saying, yes, I was an abuse victim. Sue this guy.
Went to a mental hospital in July of 2024, around 1 to 2 months after the alleged victimizations. When she's being questioned by her lawyer, she states that she went to the hospital because she just had to get out of the house. And if your first thought was, that makes no sense, then I would agree with you. This sounds like a lie. Now, I'm not a fan of Illymation, but I do think she has a very insightful video on mental hospitals. People don't go to mental hospitals just because they wanted to get out of the house. They go because they're either a danger to others or they're afraid of harming themselves.
What does that have to do with this? Oh! Freaking YouTube! Come on, man!
Facilities like this save lives every day. There are 2 types of admission. The first is voluntary, which is where you go to the emergency room and say, hi, I don't feel safe. Can you please help me? And the second is involuntary, which is where your doctor or psychiatrist feels you're at grave risk to yourself or others. So they write you a note and send you to the hospital.
So it's a weird downplay from Pinkchy to say that she just needed to get out of the house. If she wanted to do that, she...
Oh, okay, I wasn't paying full attention here. Okay, so to Austin Oaks... Okay. Just, I can't remember what it was, but instead I said to go ahead and see a therapist. Do you have any acts of, like, did you intentionally self-harm or no? So what was the region when you went? I just needed to get out of the house. So she checked herself in too? Oh my... Yeah, okay, okay, that explains that. What the heck? Why would... Yeah, you don't check yourself into one of those places for just getting out of the house.
She could have just checked herself into a hotel or something. Note that Pinkchy has more than enough money
to... It would have been cheaper.
...do this. Also note that this admission into a mental hospital seems to have happened directly after Tectone broke up with her, so I'm guessing that the breakup caused thoughts of self-harm. Actually, it looks like the redactions here suggest something a little bit worse than self-harm. So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital...
I have had an ex who Not when they broke up with me, but broke up on me with the person I helped move out towards. And then they broke up, and then she wound up in a household. So I know some people can do some very crazy stuff when breakups and things happen or disagreements happen. So when it comes to people, all bets are off. People will do anything for any reason, and motive is... There's a reason why motive is not actually looked at that much in like actual criminal cases. They might use it as like an evidence of a possibility of why you might do some things, but they ain't needed to actually convict you.
Was a psychologically healthy thing to do. However, the issue with this hospital visit is that it works as evidence against her story of abuse. Let me start by saying that when she's being questioned by her lawyer, Pinkchy said that after she got back from Austin Oaks, the mental hospital, she moved in with her mom, but as she was getting her stuff from Tectone's house, she told a roommate of his about how afraid she was of Tectone. Now, anytime you go to the hospital or see a doctor, they're going to ask you, why are you here? Surely if Tectone was so abusive that she just had to get out of the house, and she had to tell his roommate how afraid she was, she would have also told the doctors, well, you see, I have this really abusive ex-boyfriend. But
not necessarily. Sometimes they're not going to tell doctors about that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I kind of disagree that they have to tell somebody. In fact, they probably wouldn't tell anybody, especially if they don't want to get police involved.
She didn't do that. In fact, the doctors specifically asked her if she had been a victim of abuse. Pinkchy says yes, but she doesn't mention Tectone. She mentions...
Wait. Dial that back for 10 seconds.
...been a victim of abuse.
Okay, then they go on to ask your entire history of sexual life. Again, not just sexual assault, not a criminal offense, but any sexualization all over your lifetime. And you say, why is this redacted? But you clarify and explain that redacted. Is that correct? Yes. I would really like to know what the actual things is. Okay, you would agree with me that at no point in this question do you mention any intimate interaction that you had with John, that you don't discuss anything related to John at all. Is correct? No, I did not. Okay, you understand that at the time you needed to be honest, complete, and accurate in the information that was provided to the best of my current knowledge. Okay, they also ask you on page 16 of those, have you experienced any emotional, physical, or sexual abuse history in any way? And you disclose that blank, 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 blank. Yes. Okay, and that was some of the relationship.
Pinkchy says yes, but she doesn't mention Tectone. She mentions a prior non-Tectone relationship, and that's it.
Prior.
Keep in mind that the time period where she is alleging the abuse happened was 1 or 2 months before she goes to the mental hospital in July. Also keep in mind that Pinkchy testified that she told Tectone's roommate 3 or so days after this questioning from the mental hospital, or around the same time, that she was afraid of Tectone, noting that his roommate did not come in to testify on her behalf. She can't even get that corroborated. So I don't see how this can be considered as anything other than crucial evidence that Pinkchy is making all of these allegations up. Now, her argument for why she didn't report to the mental hospital that she had been assaulted by Tectone is because she just didn't see it that way at the time. But again, immediately after she gets out of the hospital to collect her stuff, she tells Tectone's roommate about how scared she is. Conveniently, this change of story happens in a place where it couldn't be documented as evidence. Because, if you were an abuse victim who is fleeing your house because you're afraid of your ex-boyfriend, certainly you would want to tell medical staff later so it could be used as evidence in a police investigation.
Now, my thinking a little bit here is that this could actually go both ways. Either after she got out, she could have been scared. Even if nothing had happened, she totally could have suddenly gotten afraid of Tectone for any reason, really. And at the same time, she could totally be making it up and manipulating people. It really could go either way. It really could. And that's a very heavy could there.
This is why I don't believe anything that Pinkchy says. There are tons of holes in her story and really nothing to defend her outside of taking her word for it.
Oh my god, what the frick?
But that's not all.
Any of your
Before Pinkchy goes to the mental hospital, there are text messages between her and Tectone, where Tectone, or John, says, "Text me when you're on your way, and please be safe." And then she tells him what hospital she's going to be at. He also says,
okay, from my limited experience with that, if somebody is going to, when I think that, I'm thinking like SUV stories and things like that. Whenever somebody does like a texting like that, they're not going to tell you what hospital they're going to. If you're afraid of each other, or at least at that moment, you're definitely not afraid to tell them. But yeah, if you don't want someone to know where you're at, you don't tell them where they are.
"If you need me, just text me. I'm sorry you're going through this." So when I read stuff like that, I think, wow, there was so much documented evidence of Tectone being supportive, but when it comes to him being abusive, you just have to take people's word for it. Isn't that odd? This is like no case of abuse that I've ever seen. Abusive people usually leave evidence everywhere because they can't help themselves. We're not done yet. Pinkchy and Tectone's lawyer Joffrey discuss her leaving the mental hospital, and there's this part where Joffrey says, in fact, I believe he's listed, and the rest is blacked out. Judging by the context clues, I'm guessing that he's saying that Tectone was listed as an emergency contact, considering that Tectone says stuff like, if you need anything, let me know, and Pinkchy told him what hospital she was going to be at. So again, extremely weird behavior here, especially considering that Pinkchy communicates that her mom lives somewhere in the area. So why is she using her alleged abuser that she's afraid of as a contact instead of her mom? Moving on.
Well, let's be fair. Technically, we don't know if they were actually used as the contact because of that redaction part. We're just assuming that part. It could I mean, it technically could have been another person that was listed out here, but I don't know what else they would be talking about in that instance. But I'm just saying, for benefit of the doubts, we don't know what that was said in the redaction. We're assuming.
Let's talk about why a protection order was granted. In Texas, in order to get a protection order, the standard of proof is reasonable to believe. This is kind of a major issue for me when it comes to family court, and I think the law around
when you say reasonable grounds and things like that, that's a lot of heavy-duty lifting for allowance of things, and very vague. And that's kind of like that same preponderance of evidence kind of thing that police could actually use to get a reasonable reason for searching your house or car or something like that. They'll come up with something later, in some cases. But yeah, if they're a good one, they won't actually use this to their advantage that hard. But I don't know. When I hear reasonable grounds, that means the judge could just use whatever excuse they want to do the findings they find. So, yeah, that's very vague, and I don't like that.
This needs to be modified to prevent abuse, especially in cases like Tectone's, where there is tons of counter.
And this is very relevant to me because I am in Texas, so this is kind of things I would like to know.
Evidence to his accuser's story. Reasonable to believe is a very low standard. It's like saying if one person thinks, yeah, that could have happened, that's enough to grant an order in Texas. This standard is even lower than the more likely than not to have happened standard, which is what we're all used to hearing about in civil court cases.
This is in Texas. I want to say this again. This is not California. This is not New
But it is in Austin, which is basically pseudo-California.
York. This is not Illinois. This is not Massachusetts. This is Texas.
He's
in Texas, thank you very much.
He's implying that it's impossible to get an order of protection in Texas, when actually it seems to be fairly easy. Here's Michelle Locke, Pinkchy's lawyer, on her podcast, saying that the standard of proof in these kinds of courts is very low.
When it comes to marriage and there are abusive instances, how important is it for someone to have that documented?
Your testimony alone can be enough. And people think, well, really? I don't have to have pictures or bruises? I mean, while those things would be great and helpful, it's not a requirement because judges every day make decisions based on the credibility of witnesses.
Key thing there, the credibility. The credibility of the witness. You shouldn't be using just the word of somebody. And I get we would like to be able to believe people. It's, and I used to be that way for the longest time. I would believe just about anybody for almost anything. But boy, did I learn right quickly, you will get taken real advantage of if you live like that.
And that's the bottom line. And so the court's going to look at what you say, what he or she says, and then make the call on whether it's a believable story.
Let me remind you that Mike from PA is not a lawyer. He's an idiot propagandist who really seems to have his own boundary issues with women. Just because guns are more legal in Texas doesn't mean that this state always favors the right. A lot of bullshit occurs in Texas too. Also, this legal battle between Pinkchy and Tectone occurred in Travis County, which is where Austin is. Austin is like the California of Texas. But
take it from a Texan! I know what I'm talking about!
Anyway, Pinkchy still has to prove that there is some sort of reason to believe that Tectone will be a danger to her. Before we go into this next section, I would like to point out that neither Michelle Locke or the judge really have a grasp over how social media works. Pinkchy's lawyer Michelle said in the transcripts that she doesn't really understand social media, and in this video that I found of the judge, she openly states that she doesn't really have an interest in being online.
Find everything to say I'm yours this Valentine's Day.
I need to
at
seriously get a
Specs.
Patreon. Just make it $14 so I can
Parents
pay the
of
dang
children
thing that
who
I can get
play
rid of this.
Roblox.
Oh my freaking god!
If your child was sexually
go away,
exploited,
skip.
And so, for me, I didn't even have social media, by the way, until I knew that I had to run.
Okay, so this is very important because essentially all of Pinkchy's evidence for why she needs an order of protection and why Tectone is an ongoing threat is because of his social media posts. And if you as a judge don't understand social media, you're going to miss a ton of nuance. It's actually to the point where this court decision is quite scary and possibly a strong violation of the First.
Yeah, it's a scary thought knowing that your social media presence can really get you in the trouble. But it's not wrong. Like to be fair, when it comes to judges, they shouldn't be a what's the word I'm looking for here? They shouldn't be expected to understand social media, but it would be nice. And if they do, then you know that they might take social media evidence as a little bit more in question. But if they don't, then you know anything that you have said on social media is definitely going to get used against you hardcore. Oh, yeah. It's basically... I mean, it is your words against you, after all. So you honestly want to be very careful about what you say on the internet as a whole, because it can and will be used against you. You should always be prepared that somebody will use your words against you. And whatever you use on the internet, it'll be on there forever. The only time it won't is if you're so boring, no one cares.
Amendment. Personally, I think Pinkchy has taken advantage of the judge's lack of knowledge of social media and using that to lie. To talk about that, let's go to Exhibit 16, I think. This post from Tectone is still live, so I'll just show the actual tweet. It says, another OnlyFans woman lying about rape, then just moves on. No damage done to them. Ruin a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common? This is from October 21st of 2025. Nearly a year after Tectone was accused, and he said...
Wait, what's this about Rich Campbell? What? I think I heard about the Rich Campbell thing, because I remember the name, and I thought it was taken for a given. He was a horrible person because of... Well, okay.
Still boosting a post talking about a friend of his from OTK, who I guess was falsely accused. I don't know that situation too well, but that's what's being talked about. Pinkchy says that she believes that
I think Rich Campbell, if I recall, was a friend of Asmongold's, and then I heard that he was found out to be like some sort of predator type, and then everyone disassociated with him, even Asmongold. And then I guess some things were coming out from the sound of things, and I guess they're being a little bit less heavy-handed against him, but like, I think I heard Asmongold talk about him for a moment there, but I wasn't paying too much attention about it. But yeah, I see. This is what I'm talking about. You hear things, they don't get proven, and later on they find like, oh no, I dismissed it. That's a lie, and you've ruined the person's life and reputation for the rest of their lives. You got to be very careful about things about what you believe, because people just want to hurt people in some cases.
Tweet was about her, and then she says that Tectone makes posts like this to try to get his fans to attack her because she does OnlyFans, which is retarded because if you look at the comments on the tweet, you can see that people aren't talking about Pinkchy. You can't even find her name by doing a text search on the page. In fact, you can't see this in the court transcript, but since this tweet is still live, we know who Tectone is referring to in this tweet because he's quote tweeted a post talking about Azalea Lexi. So how in the...
Oh, she used it as if she was talking about herself? Not... Oh, that is dirty. That is very dirty. That is playing very dirty.
Hell is this comment about Pinkchy? By the way, this is in stark difference to her allegation post, where the top comment essentially is saying, hey, you're talking about Tectone, right? The irony here is that Pinkchy herself made the argument in court that people wouldn't know who she's talking about because Tectone's name wasn't mentioned in her tweet. But if you know anything about the internet, the minute you start vague posting like this, tons of people in the comments are going to start asking, oh my god, who is she talking about?
And they're either going to be speculative and be exactly on who they want it to be, or maybe they might find out who it is and find out later, and then making whatever you said before completely dismissed or whatever. Or, But yeah, people have ways of finding things out or making pretty harsh guesses. And even if you don't say it, then people are just going to assume.
Which will prompt all the know-it-alls to try to be the first person to say that it's Tectone. In fact, here's me doing this with the false allegations against Turkey Tom. You can see that I don't mention Tom in the post. People are asking who I'm talking about, and if you
The name Turkey Tom sounds familiar, but I don't know what from.
scroll through the comments, you can see several people explaining the reference. This is not like a secret behavior that people have. Anytime some sort of inside joke or a test question is posted on social media, tons of people go to the comment section looking for the person who will explain everything. So in my opinion, Pinkchy left Tectone's name out of this post to prevent a defamation lawsuit, but left in enough clues for people to easily figure out who she was talking about, so her followers would say who it was for her. If she only wanted her friends to know about these allegations,
Courts really should not be using social media evidence. They can be manipulated in some... I'm even finding out now just how much they can be really manipulated. I didn't even think about taking the picture or reply post that Did is replying about completely out of the context. You can take these things so out of context. That's terrifying. Oh, God.
like she said in court, she wouldn't have posted it on social media. Anyway, back to Tectone. Here's where it gets scary.
And we're sure this is shocking for many of you that
YouTube,
just
stop
hear the
this
news.
nonsense.
Remember that the order of protection was granted,
Every
meaning that
5
Tectone
minutes,
is not
every-
allowed to talk about Pinkchy. Her evidence that this tweet was about her was purely on the basis of Tectone bringing up OnlyFans, and because she does OnlyFans. She actually makes this argument several times. Here's another one, Exhibit 20. This tweet is also still alive, so I'll just bring it up. He's asking for OnlyFans models to stop giving life advice because you can see them naked for less than a Fortnite battle pass.
Where's her dignity? Oh, I don't know. I heard she's selling it for $5.
This is another post where if you scroll down, you can see that nobody is talking about Pinkchy.
I didn't say it, he did.
Yet she is suggesting that these posts are targeted at her and designed to train Tectone's audience into hating her. Now, if you were a judge who doesn't use social media that much, you would think, oh, well, that makes sense. Obviously, he's only mentioning OnlyFans because Pinkchy does OnlyFans. Why would anybody else talk about that? Except, talking about OnlyFans girls is an entire meta of content creation that is...
It really is. Like, hating on OnlyFans girls is kind of a theme with a lot of groups. I mean, in some cases they may be right, and then for others they're completely off base. So, it's a stereotype piss off, basically. So,
existed for years. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with people like Morgpie trying to bend Twitch's rules so she can show her boobs to 13-year-olds and try to get them addicted to pornography. Maybe some of these women deserve to be criticized, so citing these posts as threats and possibly suggesting that Tectone can never talk about OnlyFans because of the order of protection, I think is a massive violation of the First Amendment. Second, in the same way that she cites these posts about OF, she also cites Tectone talking about illegal aliens as a threat towards her, saying, well, I'm half Mexican, so I'm almost a minority, and that means he's...
But you're not here illegally! That has nothing to do with you!
...victimizing me with these posts. If this type of post counts as talking about Pinkchy, then Tectone, as a social media influencer, can't talk about the most pressing issues of the past year because his ex-girlfriend is half Mexican? This is very stupid. She continues, and I think this is the most ridiculous part, and I think it's where she takes the most advantage of the judge's ignorance of social media. She says that Tectone makes call-out videos on certain influencers. These kinds of videos, by the way, are extremely common on YouTube. I mean, this reads like she's suggesting that YouTube drama should be illegal.
I mean, the whole iDubbbz, Osmond Gold, Carl Jobs, Hassan, they all do call-out stuff.
She says here that if a protective
Tectone definitely does too.
Order isn't granted, then he will continue relentlessly harassing and threatening her to the point where her life will be in danger. This is absolutely ridiculous. Over the past handful of days...
And that's how you know that she's definitely going for the protective order part. She's saying, my life is going to be in danger. Not more than just the person's going to be coming into my life. No, I think I am fully in danger. But from everything I've heard of in the past, there wasn't anything about danger that I'm thinking about. It's one thing about sexually assaulted and all that kind of stuff there and saying, but danger? Like life-threatening? That is... yeah, that's a thing. I could totally understand a restraining order if that's truly what you hear, but I could totally understand that. But if you're somebody who really wants to hurt somebody, putting a protective order on them is gonna hurt. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was feigning that to make Tectone hurt. That kind of gives me feel, because so far I'm not seeing anything that makes me think that she's truly in danger. She's gonna have to do a lot more about danger than that.
Tectone and Miskiff have made like 18 videos on each other. By her logic, you would think that both of them would have been dead 10 times over by now. Keep in mind that between the breakup in July and the time that Pinkchy made her allegations on November 20th, 2024,
Didn't somebody try to attack Tectone once, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Can't find a single instance where Pinkchy's name is mentioned by Tectone, and she certainly doesn't provide any mentions outside of his post on November 22nd. And keep the context here in mind. Tectone and Pinkchy break up. Tectone is silent about Pinkchy until she accuses him of assault. Then Tectone makes a post saying, "I'm going to sue you if you don't apologize." In this context, he's just defending himself. Like he is being legally punished here for defending himself against allegations that had no corroborating evidence.
I think this is the main reason why Tectone has become so extreme. And whenever you think about it, really calling somebody a rapist is one of like the top 3 things that you can say to somebody that is career destroying, career ending, or damaging.
Right.
Calling somebody a rapist, a Nazi, or a racist. Those are like the top 3 things these days. Well, I guess transphobe now too. If you get people to believe that you are any of those 4, your life is ruined.
That's a career-ending allegation, and during the court case, Tectone said that he was dropped from his partnership with OTK almost immediately after Pinkchy's allegations. By the way, if you're thinking she must be the innocent party because she filed for the protective order, note that
No, bet if people could be doing that just for the heck of it, or could just be doing it to hurt somebody, but yeah, honestly, if you were trying to be reasonable, the restraining order, I think, would have been perfectly fine. But the protective order is where you kind of lose me, because that is excessive.
Protective orders get abused actually quite a lot. In fact, if you watched my video on Alexa Nicholas, who was falsely accused of leaking sealed court documents by a good friend of Taylor Lorenz, you would know that she mentioned that she had a stalker who was harassing her and her family. That stalker filed a restraining order against her. So yes, these orders can be weaponized. And speaking of that, here's the fun part. I think this was all a coordinated effort against Tectone from multiple streamers.
Now, this one you might end up losing me about the coordinated thing. They don't have to be coordinated to all want to be up against them at the same time. But I'm just saying, you're going to have to provide some proof to convince me that it definitely was coordinated.
Let's move on to another stupid argument that Pinkchy makes that you would only think is valid if you didn't understand social media. On page 144, Pinkchy says that Tectone destroyed her streaming career when he made his post on November 22nd. Now, personally, I don't know the validity of her claim. She provides no evidence of this outside of saying that's what happened, and she could have just as easily nuked her own Twitch channel to hide evidence that Tectone wasn't actually abusive, since they did a lot of streams together. But nonetheless, she's suggesting that her online career was over and her life was ruined, which is stupid because her primary income is Fansly and OnlyFans. It's stupid because hating on OnlyFans creators only makes them more popular. Everyone who is good at social media knows that. That's why OF chicks go on podcasts like whatever.
Now, I think I have heard some videos of Tectone saying that she has done the same things to people she knew. So this is definitely an argument that I could have sworn was being used by either Tectone. In fact, I think Asmongold even said he doesn't like making new friends because he knows that people will attack them. So, I don't know. This is definitely... I don't entirely know or agree with how valid the thought that Tectone is going to attack other people, because then there's going to make more evidence that they're going to have that he's attacked them. And if that ever comes out, then that can be used against him. It all goes vice versa. If you start attacking anybody, you can come out and ruins everything altogether.
Or Fresh and Fit and say dumb stuff. It's to promote their content.
When you got kicked off of Fresh and Fit the first time, how much money did you make, girl, afterwards? Like, how many...
Fresh and Fit, there's no one that does more for OnlyFans women than Fresh and Fit. You have helped sex workers more than anybody, I think, in the world. You have given us the world. Every time I come on your show, my money goes way up. And then he kicked me off, and then he invited me back on. So
the only bad press that you can get for OnlyFans is being unattractive. People don't care about the morality of a porn star. it's actually kind of a problem because you can inadvertently make the thing more popular by criticizing it. So Pinkchy suggesting that her life was over after a single tweet from Tectone, where, keep in mind, he was defending himself.
Your reputation might be over, but your life sure ain't over.
Against allegations with no corroborating evidence. It's his right to do that. So Pinkchy suggesting that her life was over after that tweet couldn't be further from the truth. She's now more popular than ever and has more social media followers than Tectone between Instagram and TikTok. In fact, don't take my word for it. Take it from Mujin, who said on Twitter, "Let it be known that from this point onward, anyone still caught defending Tectone is purposefully ignoring facts for what is most likely a desperate and pathetic attempt at gaining favor or clout." I mean,
saw this text from Mujin as well, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I felt like this was jumping on something really quick, and I was surprised to see it from Mujin, especially the part where he said that he knew things behind the scenes, and I'm still not too sure what to believe about that. And that kind of worries me because I like Mujin's stuff a lot. So, yeah.
Maybe, though I'm not sure what facts he was talking about. Note that he said this before the transcript was made available, so real smart of him to not wait until the evidence was public. However, you can see that he is very much on Pinkchy's side, and more importantly, you can see him stating here that she makes significantly more money than Tectone. Weird, because a statement like that makes her look like she's the one who actually has more power, and thus makes her look like the aggressor. But here's the part where things get interesting. Again, you would have to understand social media to recognize this stuff. On this page, page 144, Pinkchy mentions a girl named Morgan, and then she says that she went to Los Angeles to do collabs. I think it was a mistake to say this, because Morgan is almost certainly Morgpie, a person who Pinkchy has done numerous collabs with.
Not me. That's funny, because I picked that card in a different group, and it was me. But I'm gonna pick one.
Again, she's done a number of collabs with Morgpie, like this one here at the gym. God, she must edit her photos a lot. I'm not even looking at the same person when she's on video and in a place where she can't cake on makeup. Anyway, there's tons of video evidence of them interacting.
She really does look a lot different, like image to image, doesn't she?
Interacting with each other, and tons of tweets and stuff, so this person, Morgan, is almost certainly Morgpie. Why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because one of the things that Morgpie is famous for is helping signal boost false allegations against the YouTubers who run a channel called Super Mega. Turkey Tom made a huge video on it.
Super Mega is a comedy gaming channel with almost 1 million subscribers, run by Matt Watson and Ryan McGee. Over the
I think this friendship thing is a bit too circumstantial to really jump at
past 2 years, the channel has found itself mired in endless controversy. However, none would prove as devastating as those levied in July of 2023. That month, a cosplayer named Lex accused Super Mega's channel artist, Dawn, of SA. Matt and Ryan were named for mishandling the situation. This sparked enough backlash for a whole new wave of accusations to surface from former friends and employees. Lex's outright lies in her own video poisoned the well, and if her initial story about Dawn was true, it is severely discredited by the various falsehoods she spread. These falsehoods were supported by her boyfriend, Ethan is online, their friend, Nick is not green, their other friend, Leighton Stollard, Morgpie, and even Rav. All of these people spread provable lies to smear Super Mega as a brand.
Super Mega was a popular variety channel that had a podcast, and this was quite the Turkey Tom video. It's kind of like an epic set of false allegations, but where Morgpie plays a role is that she had a crush on one of the owners named Matt. Matt didn't want to pursue a relationship, but they hooked up twice, and then I think Matt chose a different girl over her.
Honestly, I cried for months.
Hookup culture is gonna bite you in the butt. You gotta really stick away from it. I stay away from a lot of people, especially these days. I am honestly a very, very scared to go near, honestly, people in general. I have gotten very paranoid of people lately.
Over that guy. I was like, give me one of your shirts, you know what I mean? So I posted a picture of me wearing the shirt I took of his onto my personal Twitter, not like my big one, but my other one. And he texted me after ghosting me, after I asked him if he wanted to hang out again that night. He didn't respond to me asking if he wanted to hang out again. He responded with a screenshot of the post and was like, hey, can you take this down? Like, people have seen me in that shirt, like they know that shirt. Can you just take down this post?
Did you hear the part where she said she made the post on a second account? Kind of like similar to what Pinkchy did. What an odd coincidence. To quickly sum things up, Morgpie became friends with a disgruntled ex-Super Mega employee named Leighton, whose goal was to do whatever he could to ruin their career. Morgpie's purpose was to basically signal boost and give validity to all of the provably false things that Leighton was saying about Super Mega. During this time, she also doxes the ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend of one of the owners.
I'm not going to take too much of the Super Mega stuff at value right now because he's not exactly saying how things are disapprovable here, but yeah, I'm going to be kind of glazing through this part, I think.
And it seems like the doxing was intentional to get back at him for picking another girl over her. Again, these are very familiar circumstances.
So I was just talking about personal details being unnecessarily mentioned and weaponized to make me look worse. And unfortunately, more people have jumped on that bandwagon. One of those people being Morgan, aka Morgpie. Morgan not only brought my current girlfriend into the situation on stream without her consent, she also name-dropped my girlfriend and revealed that we were in a relationship, which was not public information. I'm very private about my relationships, so this was a big blow. Morgan also brought my ex-girlfriend into the picture without her consent and has strongly hurt her because of this. She lied about conversations with my ex-girlfriend. She wrongly stated that I had been having a multiple-month affair with my current girlfriend while I was dating my ex-girlfriend. She also lied about not knowing who my current girlfriend was because she did know who that was, and she used it as a segue to name drop her. She also falsely claimed that I was cheating on my current girlfriend, which is not true. They are both being harassed viciously, and their personal lives are being used as weapons to make me look worse, and I think that's completely unacceptable.
Oh
Take the next step in treating your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis with Intibio.
Anyways,
The only
from all
And
this,
by the way-
that's definitely telling me that she's not a very credible source of things. But then again, I've not heard anything from her either, so I'm not taking... There's nothing really much...
Even though the allegations were false, they still succeeded. Super Mega took a huge hit, and it really hasn't been the same since. Even after Super Mega was exonerated in the eyes of the public. So if you're wondering...
That's just usually how it goes. That's why a lot of people will do the false calculation things. They don't take any hits from it, honestly. And the people they want to do damage towards always works. They will do the damage almost irreparably, and they'll get off pretty scot-free. I mean, by the time they're ready to come out about it, they're not going to take much from it anyway.
Why people do these tactics and coordinate these ops on Discord and stuff? It's because they work. So where am I going with...
Just as he said. Yeah, they work.
With all this? Well, Pinkchy's official story is that she thought her relationship with Tectone was all consensual until after the breakup and after she confided in a friend who told her that actually she was being abused. And yes, this sounds very much like I consented to sex and then changed my mind later. It's like 2015 college feminist behavior. Anyway, my personal opinion is that the friend who Pinkchy talked to was Morgpie, which is why her name randomly slips in the transcript. And I think the actual reason that Pinkchy is doing all this is because she's mad that Tectone broke up with her, and she's mad that he is with someone else after she clearly was still into him when the relationship ended, based on texts that were shown in court. And what I mean is that on page 113...
Small world, apparently. Same gym? That's
After the breakup, before she goes into the mental hospital, she's talking about how much she loves him and says, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm going to get a full psych evaluation and get some real help." So I've read certain parts of this transcript a lot of times, particularly this part, and here it sounds like the actual story is that she was having regular psychological breakdowns. He got tired of putting up with it, so her going to the mental hospital was like, "No, wait, I swear I'll change." I would also guess that she was threatening self-harm if he broke up with her, which is why she's saying, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you," which again...
This is kind of sounding very eerily familiar to some past things in my life. So I have some feel, yeah, this is, yeah.
And makes her look like the abuser because threatening self-harm is emotional blackmail. Honestly, this visit to the mental hospital looks like some sort of bargain to get him back after the breakup, and I think the actual reason that Pinkchy acted out on social media is because she's pissed off that Tectone moved on to somebody else. Based on the information that I've shown, I don't think this is that much of a stretch. Now, pay attention to who Pinkchy's friend Morgpie is friends with. Would it shock you if I said that Hassan Piker is a friend of hers? I don't know how every bad thing on social media always relates back to this social circle, but it seems to be the case. Why is that important? Well, Hassan Piker has this ongoing war with Asmongold, probably because he's mad that Asmon is more famous than him. Hassan likes to sit back and have his little lackeys do all the dirty work for him. This is a famous tactic of his, and he primarily works by not directly saying that he has certain values.
I'm not a big fan of Hassan. I've heard a lot of things. I've seen some of his things too, like sitting this one guy in front of like a some propaganda music video thing, the things he did with Kaya, which you can see him pressing a button. You know he's doing something. I don't know if it's definitely a shock collar and not a vibrating collar or something, but either way, I don't like the fact he basically forces her to sit on that cot for this entire stream. He's used like a prop. That alone is enough for me to be pissed. Not even more so by using it by command. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of Hassan at all.
But he will signal boost all the people who have the values that he wants to promote by watching their content on his stream. That being said, Tectone is friends with Asmongold. Hassan wants to attack Asmongold in any way that he can, so I think his lackeys came up with a plot to destroy Tectone. They do this a lot. Recently, Girl Hassan and promoter of incest, aka Denims, randomly attacked Emiru for being friends with Asmongold and for not talking about her politics, which was stupid and pointless.
Racist chud. Emma is friends with Asmongold, Lakari, Tectone, plus she thinks Ethan Klein's lawsuits are justified.
Asmongold's a bad person.
They really need to leave Emaru alone. She doesn't want anything to do with any of this stuff. She just wants to use her life. Like, don't stop. Like, leave her alone. She doesn't want to be involved in all your infighting and shit, man.
Tectone is a bad person.
But going back to Tectone, seeing that Morgpie has already been involved in conspiracy behavior against Super Mega, I don't think it's that unreasonable to say that this tactic is being repeated a lot. Ethan Klein being yet another example of a...
I think Emaru is the weak point that a lot of these guys go, because they like going after Emaru because of how neutral she tries to be, but also because she's also friends with these other group, and she's kind of an easy target. But the problem is, everybody likes Emaru, because from everything on the outside in, nobody sees Emaru as doing anything wrong, because she usually takes her nose out of a lot of problems. And yeah, so I don't know why they keep going after Emaru, random things, or the milquetoast opinions of things, but they need to leave her alone, because like anyone who goes after her, everybody will immediately take her side, because they never really see her do anything really wrong. And if it is, it's like the lightest thing ever. It's really sad.
Person who Hassan's social circle has conspired against. So basically, the lackeys create the noise, and then Hassan does stuff like signal boost false information about Tectone that was said by Miskiff.
Apparently, Miskiff sent like a court reporter to the court to take notes in this process.
Well, apparently he sent his friend to take notes, but yeah.
Then he brought Hasanabi saying, like how when he shocked his dog. So apparently he did a right-wing pivot, and he thought that, but Hasanabi bad would work in a court of law. This is why I always say nobody grifts to the left.
Sorry, that last line wasn't super relevant, but it was so stupid that I had to include it. If you read the court transcript, it was actually Pinkchy's lawyer who brings up that Hassan abuses animals, not Tectone. And the reason it was brought up was because of a retarded counter-argument that Pinkchy's lawyer made about the allegations against Tectone having no effect on how much hate he gets, because he brings up things like Hassan shocking his dog. It was such a stupid part of the transcript because Pinkchy's lawyer is arguing that Pink's pretty direct allegations against Tectone on Twitter of one of the most horrific crimes didn't really have an effect on how many threats he gets, because nobody could figure out that she was talking about him, despite numerous people in the comments saying that it was Tectone. But when Tectone says any random thing about OnlyFans, even when he's showing that he's referencing a different person, it's an immediate threat to Pinkchy's life. So again, I think there's a bigger thing going on here, where a bunch of people are collaborating with Pinkchy to try to destroy Tectone, Morgpie being one of them. By the way, these people are often stupid, so they leave tons of evidence lying around. Here's Miskiff going on a huge tirade during his Tectone video,
I mean, I'm still not a big believer in it being a coordinated effort, but I do believe all these people do not like Tectone, and we're definitely going to be doing things against him. But it's clearly not coordinated, because these people are not coordinated.
He's basically blowing Hassan and the rest of the LA streamer scene.
You attacked Hassan for months, years now, shitting on Hassan, farming so much hate on the guy.
I think these are just people who hate Tectone so much that as soon as they saw a way to go at him, they went at him. I mean, simple enough as that. I don't think it's coordinated.
He's a problem. You're farming hate on Hassan Piker all fucking day. Frogan.
I mean, who doesn't? He does quite a bit to do that.
People that are doing shit. You attack Pokimane, Cutie Cinderella.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that these people are talking, especially considering they live in the same area. I mean, Miskiff flat out admits to talking to Pinkchy, but you know, not out of concern for her well-being, but to point out that she didn't think it was weird when he shook her hand for too long that one time.
Then me and his ex-girlfriend started to talk, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I never ever said that in my fucking life. Why the fuck would I care about that? Like, I did not shake her hand a long time.
You can watch Miskiff for about 60 seconds and easily see that this guy only cares about himself. Personally, I think all of this drama farming for him is just to make people not pay attention to his ex-girlfriend Emiru's allegations, saying that he was pretty abusive.
After like all of that Rust stuff happened was when the other domestic abuse stuff really started. He would destroy furniture in front of me. He would throw things in front of me and near me. Destroy walls. Again, you can go see this in some of his VODs in his bedroom, the holes in the wall. There would be times where he was upset at me and I would go to my stream room and literally lock myself in.
You know, I gotta mention, the whole punching holes in the walls thing, why do people do that? That's like the dumbest thing ever. You punch a hole in the wall, you gotta repair it eventually, and that's gonna cost money. You're hurting your fist, you're hurting your wallet. It's not helping the situation ever. Don't do it.
To get away from him, and he would be banging on the door and screaming at me. At the time, he also would more often do things like if we were driving in the car together, he would be going like 150 miles an hour, and like one time he even said like, well, now we're both gonna die. Threatening to kill both of us.
Interesting story. So we have Miskiff talking to Pinkchy. Well, of course he was talking to Pinkchy because he couldn't have known about the court date and where to send his court reporter to take a bunch of factually inaccurate notes. In fact, this idiot friend of Miskiff's who goes by Axion publicly admits to being invited to the court by Pinkchy.
He knows me. I think he tried to get me kicked out or something. I can only assume. That's not for sure because the bailiff came over and asked me, "Are you here for her?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah." Did Pink know? I said, "Yeah." She signed me up to be there.
Okay, at least this one took a little bit longer to get to this one. But still, I'm getting really tired of these ads, man.
What an idiot to have admitted that. So now we know that Miskiff and Axion's involvement was directly approved by Pinkchy, which is interesting because it seems to be the case that Miskiff has gone on a full-on disinformation campaign against Tectone, where he spreads numerous lies that are easy to disprove if you just look at the court transcript. So now I believe this chick even less. If she was being honest, then she wouldn't have to side with people who constantly make statements of fact that are easy to verify as false. Here's another stupid one that Miskiff said.
And has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a small price.
Miskiff, if this is how factually accurate you are in reporting the story, then you should go work for CNN. The fees were around $15,000. It's said out loud in the courtroom, so his friend would have heard it. And you think a guy like Miskiff, who has his own allegations of abuse and is saying they aren't true, would be more careful to accurately report information. Especially,
I mean, he probably also knows that no one's gonna listen that much in the future anyway, so why bother telling the truth when nobody's gonna care later on in a few weeks, honestly, right? It's like, even with this video, I'm pretty sure Tectone's still gonna have a lot of people coming at him against him anyways, or be still in Miskiff's count, no matter how much lies are happening. They just are. People select. It's like picking your favorite champion in League of Legends or your favorite fighter in a fighting game. You pick them, you stick with them, you love them. No matter what happens, they're your baby. You're never, nothing can do no wrong.
Especially considering that this stuff is so easy to look up. Anyway, Miskiff also graciously leaked his own DMs, showing that he was talking to Mike from PA, another Hassan orbiter, who went on to repeat other bombastic things about Tectone.
So there you have it, chat. Tectone is a rapist. He is a stalker. He's a danger to the community.
Okay. That there, Mike from PA, I don't know how Mike from PA does not get sued with some of the things he says. Like, he just called Tectone a rapist when this does not prove him to be a rapist. If there is anybody who should be getting sued for the things they say, especially because he says some very horrible things, by the way. Oh, yeah, this is somebody who I'm shocked who has not been sued yet.
He should absolutely 100% be permanently banned from Twitch. And could someone explain to me why he's not been permanently banned from Twitch?
That is real crazy coming from a guy who was trying to get one of his viewers to assassinate a YouTuber he didn't like. Or was him simping over the
That, for one thing, just for one example?
$5 a month girl, the more egregious offense. And last, as far as I've been able to find, I think Denims is a part of this as well. Because
I wouldn't be a little surprised because I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know that they're part of that group, and Denim usually likes interjecting herself in quite a few things. I don't know how intertwined she's going to be with this particular one. I just know that she likes making comments, and also I think it's an intertwining of audiences too, because the audiences will ask them questions about things, and then they'll make statements about it. So even if they don't want to be involved, their audiences will also kind of get them more involved too.
He was openly saying that it was Tectone being accused of sexual assault before that was public. So personally, in my opinion, I think this whole situation was not because Pinkchy was afraid of Tectone. I think it was a coordinated effort by people who hate Tectone to try to ruin his career. I mean, also, she has no proof that he's abusive outside of her saying he is. And let me elaborate on what I'm talking about. When Emiru accused Mizkif of being abusive, she brought receipts. She had Discord messages and then like a million...
Like this. This is the stuff I want to see, to really see the stuff. Emiru brought so many messages and so much evidence against Mizkif's stuff. I couldn't help but believe her. But Mizkif, oh my god, he's all over the place.
And schizo text that he sent her after the breakup. Now I'm more likely to believe what she said.
Oh, it doesn't help you who likes to make this whole demon time thing.
Because she can show documented behavior that supports her accusations. As for Tectone, the only time he mentions Pinkchy is after she accuses him of abuse, and what's really going on here is that she made an allegation with no corroborating evidence. Tectone says that's not true, and now he's getting legally punished for it. It's actually disturbing how often these types of situations happen. I mentioned recently that Turkey Tom was falsely accused by an ex-girlfriend of his, in a situation that is strikingly similar to Tectone's, where 4 days after the breakup, she goes on to Kiwi Farms to accuse him of physical abuse, filming without consent, and engaging in weird fetishes.
Recently, I've been accused by an ex-girlfriend, along with an ex-partner, of non-consensually filming sexual encounters, being so rough and inconsiderate during sexual encounters that it bordered on assault, encouraging eating disorders, being into age play, along with a litany of other completely baseless, false accusations.
The reality was that his ex-girlfriend, Rowan, was actively consenting to everything, including being filmed. She had a bunch of creepy fetishes, and she was trying to push Tom into behavior that he didn't want to engage with.
He never asked me.
Okay, once again, we're jumping to things that I don't exactly have that much of interest in. It seems to be more of a attack of character thing against for whatever hatred for Tectone they seem to
He
have
would just
too.
pull out his phone and record. I wouldn't notice until maybe 30 seconds in a minute or a minute into it.
Now, I obviously can't and would never show these videos to anyone, but in them, it's undeniable that she is staring directly into the camera from the moment the video starts. Because the reality is that every single time we recorded, I had explicit permission. Rowan texts me saying, quote, "Rape thing is so hot." My response to this is consensual sex is good.
It's funny because Tom sends texts like the FBI is watching. I just want to make sure that we've established that this is all consensual, okay?
I mean, can you blame him?
Somebody knew this was coming.
In the interview, it stated that our breakup took place in December and that after that she realized how bad it was and she felt the need to contact Katie, who we're going to get into later.
Gee, where have I heard that one before?
Honestly, at this point, before doing anything with a partner, you might as well get a whole contract signed up saying you're doing everything consensually as much as possible, because oh my god, it's a scary world out there.
If you watch Tom's video on the false allegations against him, it's an incredibly similar story to Tectone's, except I think Tom is a little bit more conscientious about this stuff, and so he made sure to have evidence of his ex openly saying that she would blackmail him if they didn't get back together.
Immediately after I told Rowan that I wanted to break up with her, she began threatening to post about me online.
I'm gonna make it hard for you to ever be in a relationship.
Okay, Rowan, I just want to move on and have my life, and you'll move on and have your life. And we can be in our own corners. We don't have to do damage to each other.
Like, do you think we'll ever be able to see each other?
After the way these conversations have gone today, I really don't think so.
Why?
Because you're, like, threatening to blackmail me.
I'm not. Well, if you don't come see me, then I will.
You know what's great about all this? Despite that Tom has her recorded saying that she will blackmail him, there really isn't much remedy you can get against someone for false allegations unless you sue them for defamation, which is...
There really isn't. You mean, for the fraudulent accusations, there really is so much of a disparagement in the levels of punishment for doing so. It's scary, some of the things that can end up happening. I try to stay away as far from people as possible. I am scared of people these days.
Expensive and hard to prove, and it's why people feel safe in falsely accusing somebody. And then asshats like Hassan will boost the false allegations without critical thought or saying where's the evidence.
Try Vive Organic with potent ingredients powered by plants. Give it a shot.
Ads, move it on.
Rio Spring Break deals up to 25%
I can't
off
skip
and free
them, they're too
transfers.
short.
Book now only on
Come on,
Rio.com or in the Rio app.
By the way, one of your OG slop tuber ops, Turkey Tom, also caught a sexual assault allegation where he physically abused 2 of his exes. This didn't even reach your radar because he's laying low. No, it didn't reach my radar because I have so many fucking ops that have done like sexual assault that I don't even know who the fuck this one is. But that's crazy.
There he is, just agreeing with and validating the allegation with no pushback, despite knowing nothing about it. Luckily, Tom knew the exact way to humiliate his ex for blackmailing him and how to prove his innocence. But for average people, this can be life-destroying, and there's not really much you can do about it. Anyway, let's go to the court decision. Like everyone else, I already knew the results before I read this transcript, and I was still shocked to see this. Based on the testimony and the evidence that's been provided to the court does find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of sexual assault. The court makes the additional finding that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of stalking and will grant a 10-year protective order.
Okay, you might be able to get an agreement out of the victim of sexual assault. I don't get where you're coming with the grounds of stalking thing before. Okay, that feels like a bit of a jump from what I've seen so far.
The court means the judge, by the way.
There seems to be a lot more details coming right off of the other lady than there is from Tectone, from everything I've seen. Like, whatever, man.
The judge made this decision just to make it clear that this was not a trial by jury. Some additional things. Tectone has to pay $15,000 in lawyer fees to Pinkchy. He can't go anywhere near her. Who cares about that? He obviously...
I do hope he can be able to appeal this, because I feel like there definitely needs to be a second opinion on this.
He doesn't want to go near her. He has lost his right to own a firearm for 10 years, which is nuts considering she didn't really have any evidence that Tectone was dangerous. And he's not allowed to talk about her, which again is also ridiculous, not because he can't say the name Pinkchy for 10 years, but because of the criteria they consider to be a conversation about Pinkchy. As in, if Tectone ever talks about OnlyFans in a negative light, is he liable for criminal charges? This is insane. Knowing nothing going in, I don't think any reasonable person would have agreed with the judge here. So I started researching on who this person is. Judge Dimple Malhotra. If you go to her website, it basically describes her as an activist who started out by working in San Francisco, California. Remember how I said that Austin is the California of Texas? Also this.
It is so incredibly important that we celebrate and embrace diversity. And I think it's just so important even for this courtroom, when people walk into this courtroom and they're from different ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, to be able to walk in and see someone who looks like me, I think provides a certain level of comfort to them.
An immigrant.
Okay, from that statement, I didn't see anything. I mean, I know there's a lot of assumptions you could possibly make, but I didn't see anything that would affect this particular case. But it definitely does have a lot of California markers on there, so that's all I can say about that.
Who grew up in the U.S. with a family environment deeply rooted in Indian culture. Judge Dimple Malhotra is the first and only person of South Asian descent elected to a judicial seat in Travis County history. Oh, great. So she's one of those people where we have to focus on their race instead of their qualifications.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of focusing on they're the first of a race or gender or anything like that doing a thing. I don't like that because that means, of course, nobody after them matters, right?
So oftentimes I think, especially for me, being an immigrant, being a woman of color.
Basically, I'm saying the judge is woke. Now, there were a bunch of arguments made by Pinkchy's lawyer that didn't really make sense to me. I mean the ones where she brings up Tectone talking about anti-white racism. What does that have to do with this case? What does it have to do with Pinkchy? Why did Pinkchy bring up that she's half Mexican?
Okay, man, if they are focusing hard on those elements, then it's very possible that they could use those to influence a judge who is very pro racial diversity and things like that. If they're focusing on the racial things, then that is going to definitely sway the judge.
Why are they making arguments that are irrelevant and would clearly make a judge who ran as a Democrat think that Tectone is a racist? Keep in mind that this court case is occurring on January 23rd of 2026, which is during a bunch of anti-ICE riots and after Renee Good died. These are very politically polarized things to bring up that I think aren't relevant to Tectone's case. I'm guessing that maybe Pinkchy's lawyer did some research on the judge And maybe this is why Judge Malhotra didn't notice things like Pinkchy's lawyer victim-blaming Tectone for his abuse as a child in her opening statements, something that was immediately noticeable to me. I mean, this statement right here very much makes it seem like Pinkchy was trying to use shame to force Tectone into sex acts that he was uncomfortable with because of his childhood trauma. Wouldn't it be ironic if that were the case?
Because you spent your career doing domestic violence cases and you have a background, some might think that it would be hard for you to be impartial as the judge.
Right.
So how do you maintain your impartiality?
As a prosecutor, I took an oath to seek justice, not conviction. And so people have to remember that, and that not to say that there aren't prosecutors in the world who are doing the wrong thing. Unfortunately, with every profession, you have people who really shouldn't be in that profession, who are there for the wrong reason. I took an oath as a judge to be fair and impartial. And that is also incredibly important. People walking into your courtroom deserve your impartiality and to listen to their side of the story.
That was hard to listen to considering her decision on Tectone's case. How do you stay impartial? That's easy. The answer is she doesn't. Now, this does seem like a random question to ask.
I mean, if she was holding up to the word she said there, then she should take both sides more into account there, but I don't know. I don't like how things are going there.
So why was it brought up? Well, the answer to that, I think, is a much bigger issue than the diversity stuff from earlier. The answer, I think, is a massive conflict of interest. I believe she was asked that question because a few years prior to this interview, there was an article written on her about how a lawyer got her taken off his case because of her domestic violence activism. Now, I think that trying to stop domestic violence is great. However, I also agree with the defense attorney Steve Brand, who says that her activism makes her biased towards alleged victims, and there's no way he could win a case with her as a judge.
I mean, you got a fair point there. I mean, if you've got a hard bias where you don't think that there is no way, even if you have the most solid evidence possible, you could win a trial with this particular judge, that it can be very true. And that can be a scary thing to have. And that means people are going to be scared to have this person as their judge, because even as a person who's innocent, they could definitely be made guilty on something that they didn't do, purely because of word of mouth on who or how or who is speaking about it. And that can be a scary thing when people are putting their faith in the law.
Also kind of recommends that every defense lawyer should be filing a motion to remove her from their case. And personally, after reading the transcript of Tectone's hearing, I agree. And in my armchair internet lawyer opinion with 2020 hindsight, Tectone's lawyer should have gotten Judge Dimple removed and gone with somebody else. I'm curious how many other people like Tectone she's done this to, where the accuser has no corroborating evidence mixed in with strong counter evidence against her story.
Taxes
Anyways,
was chasing updates.
Anyways, I'm about to say, I was wondering if there's a way of doing some kind of judicial review on her previous cases or something like that. I mean, if that shouldn't be too hard to prove. I mean, all the cases should have transcripts about them, right? So that shouldn't be too hard to prove if that is really a pattern of that, if that's true.
Don't know that there's a huge intersection between gun violence and domestic violence. All the studies that have been done show us that over half of the cases where there have been mass shootings, the mass shooter has had a history of domestic violence.
Did I hear that correctly? Is this why Tectone has to be treated like a felon for something that, after reading the transcript, I don't think he did? It looks like she's on some sort of anti-gun crusade, which is why she took his access to firearms away for a decade. For a decade, when he's a streamer, which puts his life in danger. Has she ever heard of the phrase correlation does not equal causation? What evidence do you have that Tectone's going to crash out and become like a mass shooter or something? Is this why Pinkchy's lawyer tried to associate him with white supremacy? Is it also...
Probably. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah. If you were really targeting... It sounds to me like they were really targeting to get this particular protective order made for this very particular argument. Which, you should be doing. If that is what your goal is, that's what you should be doing. But I don't exactly like the tactics going on.
So why Pinkchy's lawyer, immorally in my opinion, pretended to be a medical expert on schizophrenia to frame Tectone as an unmedicated psycho who could break any time? By the way, Tectone got re-diagnosed, and he doesn't have schizophrenia.
I went to a psychiatrist yesterday. Guys, I'm not schizophrenic.
I don't know how well I trust psychiatrists. They can... It's just like judges. they can have their own biases too. So I don't really trust a lot of that.
Psychiatrist believes the reason why I see things that aren't there, mainly, well, at night, is due to the fact that I got stabbed in my left eye and my right eye is normal. And so they believe that my eyeballs are causing me to temporarily hallucinate things that aren't there because they're not signaling my brain properly. And what they believe that I have is anxiety with bad vision, as well as unresolved childhood trauma. And so I was going to actually try to get medicated.
Yeah, I had seen this video too of him with his discussion about this. I don't know how true or false this is. I could totally believe that a psychiatrist said this. I don't know how credible the psychiatrists themselves would be. I don't know how credible the psychiatrist that gave him the details of what he is before that. Psychiatry is very dangerous to take a lot of stock into in some cases. And because some people think their entire life about the single diagnosis of a therapist. And you can't do that. You need to think more just about yourself and then find the ways to make it moving forward. But you don't make your entire life about that diagnosis. But, well, whatever makes your life feel better is what I feel you should do. But, I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't feel a need towards it. It means that maybe I don't trust it so much. But I wouldn't be surprised if I did go to psychiatrist. I didn't find out I was on the spectrum in some way. It feels like just very easy to be found to be on the spectrum. Just saying, it feels that way to me.
They said I do not require medication.
You have to read the transcript to get to the level of fuck these people that I'm at. Basically what's happened here is that to a judge who appears to be in favor of DEI and appears to be anti-gun, Pinkchy's lawyer framed Tectone as a violent...
You know what? Thinking about it, he's a white person with a bald head. I think it is extremely easy to make him look out to be a white supremacist. I'm just saying.
Unmedicated schizophrenic neo-Nazi. Tectone is also bald, so he might as well be seen as a skinhead, too.
I swear to God, not rewatched.
No wonder this trial ended the way it did.
I mean, he does have tattoos, too. Look at, it's very...
This is so messed up, and I don't just think this is a violation of the First and the Second Amendment, but also a violation of the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. It's also clear to me, in my opinion, based on the evidence that I've shown, that a big part of the reason that Pinkchy filed for this protective order is to avoid a defamation lawsuit. Maybe Tectone's biggest mistake here was being openly arrogant around all this during his live streams.
He is very arrogant, you gotta agree. I did hear in this previous one he's saying that he's going to be doing a lot less messaging. I think that's a very smart move. I say this about a lot of people. Shut your mouth sometimes. Because when you're too arrogant, you can say some really dumb things that really put yourself in jeopardy if people want to use it.
But it's hard to blame him, because who in the hell would have thought that he would have lost this case based on the evidence in the court transcripts? And you know what the real messed up thing is? Well, I said it already. Pinkchy most likely will not receive any consequences for this. And Tectone will probably not be able to win an appeal.
Like, even if he had won the case, so what, right? What would have happened to her if they had lost, if she lost the case? Nothing. There would have been nothing out of it. It would have meant nothing. So she loses really nothing for going through with this.
Because of how appeals court works. The sad truth is that there is very little recourse for victims of false allegations. And if Pinkchy were found to be lying, which, in my opinion, she was, there's basically nothing that you can do outside of suing for defamation, which is incredibly expensive, hard to prove, and Tectone likely would not win a defamation case because the order of protection was granted. Well, if he's even allowed to file a lawsuit like that at this point.
If there's been a lot of things I have learned from watching a lot of things over the internet of cases and like defamation stuff, it is extremely hard to win a defamation case. Defamation cases are very, very hard to win. I don't know why exactly, but I don't think I've seen very many win out of it, even when they are said to be like an open and shut kind of case to the layman. But as soon as they go to court, no matter how much is brought forward, I don't see very many defamation cases get won. They usually lose. So,
On top of that, this horrendous court decision will give protection to people such as Hassan Piker, Denims, Mike from PA, and Miskiff when they call Tectone an abuser.
I mean, if there's one person who definitely needs to be suited, I would think it would be Mike from PA. He is the loudest, dangerous mouth I've ever heard. Oh my god, he scares me with so many of the things he says.
And when they repeatedly lie about the facts of the case.
There was also, and this is confirmed, he had recordings of some of the sexual assaults and his victim in sexually compromising positions and was ordered to delete all of them or else he was going to prison that day.
I'm sorry, that doesn't sound like, that sounds like something that, if that is true, they should have been brought forward as evidence and discovery. That doesn't sound very plausible to me.
The judge said, if you don't delete them right now, I'm going to put you in prison myself.
This is yet another lie. This did not happen. All the judge said was to not share explicit content of Pinkchy that was privately filmed. As for Tectone, on his return to live streaming after a long break, he's happened. All the judge said was...
So let's see, I'm also going to order you, and I don't know that you specifically asked for this, Mrs. Locke, but you are not to disseminate or reproduce or share any kind of photographic or electronic or digital media that is recording of this applicant. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's been referenced many times during this proceedings. That is completely... The way she worded that means to me, because if she full on believed that these were indeed rapist video things, she would have just said it. But no, she talked around it. She said the things that's being referenced, not the video things. So that's a little weird that how she went about that in particular. Not gonna lie, I'm surprised he didn't mention this more. But the way Mr. PA mentioned this here, saying that he forced her to, or sorry, she forced him to delete all those? No, he said not to disseminate, reproduce, or share any kind of photographic, electronic, or digital media of any of the recording stuff. So, yeah, no, he technically could keep them. He just can't share them, which I hope he wouldn't want to do that anyways, or copy them or anything. There's nothing about having to remove them, unless I'm misunderstanding anything on that one here. I'm not seeing anything about having to delete everything, and he definitely didn't threaten to send him to jail immediately if he didn't do that. So it has been referred to many times. That is completely no. It is
to not share explicit content of Pinkchy that was privately filmed. As for Tectone, on his return to live streaming after a long break, he stated that he wants to respect the court's decision and move on.
I lost the civil case. I did. But I do genuinely want to respect the court's decision. I believe, even though I lost the case, I do believe that this still gets me to where I want to go, which is for all parties to simply move on. That's pretty much all I want, is for everybody to go their separate ways.
I hope that is as true as it possibly can be, because I want these guys to separate and not deal with each other anymore, because they are just... Every time I hear about kind of these things, in the few times that I do, it's always very bad. So I really hope everybody can move on forward from this stuff.
To be able to move.
But considering how much everybody is using this to paint down he definitely did these things, I don't think it's going to be likely.
On and find solace and peace in their life. Genuinely.
That's a very kind way to put it. I'd be a lot more mad. I mean, I was furious at the court's decision after doing the research, and this isn't even my life. But in times like this, I think we can look back on the words of wisdom from Keemstar about it being a stupid idea to date a chick who does OnlyFans. Anyway, thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.
Well, okay. You could be okay, good way. Okay, well, that was what dating an OF girl is like. Apparently, the defense for Tectone. I thought that was very interesting, going over that in a lot more poignant ways there. I saw Legal Mindset doing a reading of the entire thing, but it's just too long. I could go through the entire thing there, I'll be honest. But this is a lot more direct. Though I wouldn't be surprised if he did leave some things out there, because it is, of course, in defense of Tectone. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some parts that were left out or biased in some ways too, because like you said, it was clearly in defense of his. But he definitely does bring up a lot of interesting points. And yeah, I do hope that people look a lot deeper into how everything is going on all this and not just purely slamming on the Tectone for everything that's going on, because I definitely am a believer that there are two sides to this nastiness that's going on, and I don't like things that I keep hearing about it. But to those of you who have joined me through all this one here, I thank you very much for doing so. Please do leave your comments about what you think about everything that's going on, things you would like me to see. And yeah, just leave any comments that you have for me. And please do subscribe to further follow along with me and help me build my community. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye.